The hacker group Anonymous is officially launching a campaign to end the media blackout of Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein. Now, more so than any other presidential candidate, including Libertarian Party nominee Gary Johnson, nobody knows she exists, and Bernie Sanders supporters who are Bernie or bust and refuse to support Hillary Clinton are more inclined to vote for Gary Johnson than Jill Stein, even though it's the case that Jill Stein is closer to Bernie Sanders ideologically. Now, why is it that the media is refusing to cover Jill Stein? Well, one, they're scared of her. It's obvious. And two, they're afraid that if they do cover her, well, her ideas, like Bernie Sanders, are popular and will resonate, and that would threaten Hillary Clinton's chances. Now, we all know that MSNBC, CNN, their parent companies, are some of the largest donors to Hillary Clinton, so they are fully in the tank with Hillary Clinton, and no, this conflict of interest is not disclosed ever. So Anonymous recognizes this, and they hate it, and now they're going to fight back. So in a video titled OP Jill Stein, they state, Sanders supporters have accused us of showing bias by ignoring U.S. presidential candidate Dr. Jill Stein, and we agree. This candidate has not only been censored and ignored by the mainstream media, by Google, and by Twitter, she was even arrested and held in a black site during the 2012 election for trying to attend a debate. In the interest of avoiding mainstream media's bias against third-party candidates, we endorse this suggestion for OP Jill Stein. So what they're doing is they're encouraging everyone to disseminate as much information as possible about Jill Stein and to insist that we demand she is included in the national debates, and I couldn't agree more with this. Now, here's what's unique about this particular presidential race. Anyone who was worried about the spoiler effect, meaning that if you vote for Jill Stein, you make it likely that Trump could win because Jill Stein would take votes away from Hillary Clinton, kind of like how many people accuse Ralph Nader of doing the same in 2000. Well, if you're worried about the spoiler effect, and you were worried about the spoiler effect, you should not be worried about that, because we now have a, quote, spoiler on both sides. We have, on the conservative side, Gary Johnson, who's going to take votes away from Donald Trump. And on the liberal side, we have Jill Stein, a liberal who's going to take votes away from Hillary Clinton. So if there's equal siphoning off of the vote from the mainstream candidates, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, well, then you don't have to worry about a spoiler effect. And furthermore, if the Democratic and Republican parties are actually worried about spoilers, well, then they could institute electoral reform and do an alternate vote system, for example. This was one of the things I actually asked Dr. Jill Stein about. I said, well, how do you respond to people who accuse the Green Party and third-party candidates of being spoilers? And she said, well, look, if the Democratic Party is really worried about Donald Trump, they can fight for electoral reform and actually change the way we vote so that way your vote is ranked and you don't get spoilers. And I couldn't agree more with that. It was very influential for me. So if you are worried about the spoiler effect, you don't really have to worry about it as much this election season. So I absolutely believe Jill Stein needs to be covered more in the media, or she just needs to be covered, period. And I do believe she should be included in debates. But there's one component that I would like to add to this campaign. Jill Stein is not on the ballot in all 50 states. So if you are intending to vote for Jill Stein, you have to look up and see whether or not she is on your ballot in your state. Otherwise, you may not get to vote for her. And this is part of the reason why Gary Johnson is currently polling higher than her, because many people don't know if they can actually vote for Jill Stein. So this has to be part of the campaign. We have to get Jill Stein on the ballot in all 50 states. Not only is it fair, but it's ethical, and it gives progressives an actual choice in this election and not just saying they have to vote between a fascist and the oligarchy. Now, here's what I find remarkable. Even in the absence of media coverage, support for Jill Stein has exploded since Hillary Clinton became the presumptive Democratic Party nominee. And I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that, because she's now polling at 7%, according to a new CNN ORC poll. Gary Johnson is polling at 9%, Clinton's at 42%, and Trump is at 38%. Now, here's what's crazy. When you control for party affiliation and you look just at Democratic voters, 18% are preferring Stein to Clinton. 1 in 5 Democratic voters prefer a third-party candidate. That is honestly remarkable. So here's what you can do. You have to do activism. You have to petition your state to put Jill Stein on the ballot, and you have to disseminate information. I'm 100% supportive of this campaign. We have to share stories of Jill Stein. There are plenty of videos on my channel that you can share, because I know a lot of people don't like to read articles, but you can share the videos on my channel of Jill Stein. I try my best to cover her. I have a whole playlist dedicated to Jill Stein on this channel. Share something of Jill Stein. There are videos from Now This where she talks about her plan, where where she talks about abolishing student debt, where she talks about her progressive policies and getting off fossil fuels. And look, if you share videos of Jill Stein, I think that you can have a big impact. So I am 100% on board with this campaign, and I applaud Anonymous for this effort because I think that this is something we have to do. It's something that is just.